Hello, I'm Chef Cristopher Koetke from Chicago in the USA, and I want to thank you for watching these set of videos on how to prepare and cook duck like an expert. Now let's take a look at the duck leg, and it's actually the leg and the thigh together. What's interesting about this is that, first of all, this is a white Pekin duck, and that's the variety of duck. It's a duck that the meat is exceptionally sweet and very mild and has, yet at the same time, a lot of flavor. What's unique about the leg is that it cooks completely differently from the breast. The breast, we can saute it, grill it, poach it, but this is a different muscle, and this muscle requires more time to make it tender and luscious, quite frankly. So let's take a look at all the things that we can do with the duck leg. So I can, first of all, simply roast it, lower heat, as is, or I could braise it in a very classical braise, saute it, sear it, a little bit of mirepoix, maybe some wine, some stock, cook it slowly for a couple of hours until it's beautifully tender. Or I could smoke it, put it in a smoker and cook it very slowly. Again, it's all about low and slow. But what I'd like to show you is maybe how to do something even a little bit more special with the leg itself. Because the leg is the least expensive muscle on the body. I mean, the breast is more expensive than is the leg and thigh. So for instance, how about if we were to take the bone out of the inside? So to do that, what I'm going to do is the thigh bone is right along here. I'm going to cut along one side of the thigh bone, and then I cut along the other side of the thigh bone. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my finger and simply poke it in the back of the thigh bone, like so, so that I make a hole on the other side of the bone. And then I take my knife and I put it in the same hole where my finger just was, and I simply cut out. At that point, it's completely loosened up. Now, let me show you, we can do a couple things here. I've now loosened up the thigh bone, and I could simply cut the joint here. That's one technique. The other technique I'd like to show you is, let's keep taking more of the bone out. Now I'm going into the leg here. So I'm going to do pretty much the same thing. I'm going to cut around the joint, and I keep pressing, always pressing on a bone. That's one of the important things about butchery. You always want to press with your knife on a bone, on a carcass, something hard. I'm going to turn that around, and I'm going to cut down the other side of the leg bone. Again, always pressing on the bone. That's where it's also helpful to have a flexible knife, like the one I'm using right now. Cut around the joint. Now this is probably the hardest part of this procedure, and that is just cutting around the leg joint, because the leg joint's kind of this knobby thing. But once you cut around it, always pressing on the bone, I'm going to scrape the bone and loosen up the meat from the bone. So what I have right now is the thigh bone and the joint and the leg bone. But I want to leave part of the bone inside of this as kind of for decoration. So what I'm going to do is take my chef knife. Now I'm going to use the very back part of the chef knife, and I'm going to hit the bone. I'm going to hit the bone very hard, very precisely in one quick chop. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Like so. And now I've cut right through the bone. It's a clean break. It's beautiful. And at this point, take a look at what I've done. I now have this big area that's open, and I can stuff this with many different things. Think about maybe some raw force meat or sausage meat in there, or a mixture of vegetables, or maybe something with some nuts and mushrooms. Lots of possibilities here. And then what I would do is take this, fold it back up, so that the duck leg now is completely boneless, stuffed with something delicious on the inside. I would secure this with a little bit of string, roast it in the oven. Now let's think about what we just did. What we did is we took a muscle that is, again, much less expensive than the breast. I've turned it into something absolutely delicious. And in my restaurant, I could sell that for a nice price and frankly make a very good profit margin on it. And at the same time, the customer absolutely loves it. Okay, that's one option right there. The other option that I can do with the leg and thigh is simply cut the meat from the bone entirely. And at this point, what I want to do is cut away the skin. So I'm making it now a skinless leg and thigh, like so. Trim that away completely. A little bit more right over here. And then I'm just going to follow the bone, pressing on the bone, always pressing. I'm cutting the meat away from the bone and always pressing on the bone with the knife. Again, where a flexible knife is so helpful. Cut around the joint. Scrape the bone to be sure I get every bit of meat. Have a little bit more here. Scrape that. All right, good. Now, of course, what I'm going to do with all of these bones when I'm done with them is I'm not throwing these away. This is full of flavor, and I would roast it and add it to my duck stock for more flavor. Now, I have this beautiful meat over here cut from the leg and thigh. And again, the leg and thigh meat has a very robust flavor. It's absolutely delicious, but it requires a slow cooking. So I can take this and I can cut it up into sort of a dice. And at this point, it's perfect for stewing. I can make a beautiful duck stew out of it. Or I could take all of this, combined with a little bit of duck skin perhaps, grind it up and make things like, you know, a duck hamburger or duck meatballs, anything with ground duck. Lots of possibilities with the leg and thigh. It's really fun to experiment with.